Hey guys, so happy new year. I'm so excited to be with you all here on January 1st. And I know that typically when we do anything that kicks off the new year, that talks about what's possible in the new year, we usually talk about goal setting, we talk about several things. And I'm going to do things a little differently tonight. And should we be talking about or should we have a goal for 2025? Absolutely. Should we have a vision that fuels that goal? Absolutely. And if you guys have never sat down and just challenge yourself to uh, think about what a vision is. My favorite book, the Bible, says that without a vision, the people perish. Without a path forward, people are brought into chaos. And the same thing goes for us. Like if you finished anything in life, whether you went to college, whatever that looks like, what did your counselor do at the beginning of the year? They ask you, what you want to do, kind of where you want to have your major in and all these things. And then what do? They give you a plan that breaks down how you're going to finish, and not only how you're going to finish that year, but how you're going to finish in the amount of time that you want to finish college in, right? Like this is normal when we go anywhere else in the world. There's always some sort of breakdown that shows us how to make that happen. And then all of a sudden we join a business in our industry and we don't do things like that. And some of you, maybe you started out the gate and you set your goals. I remember when I joined, it'll be 21 years on January 5th. So Sunday will be my 21-year anniversary. Feels like yesterday, except for when I look at my children and my extended family of grandchildren. But I sat down and Carlita asked me, what my goal was. I'm like, make $500 a month. My goal is to give my husband one guaranteed day off a week. And so that was my goal. And my goal was not something big, humongous. My goal was not executive national vice president. My goal wasn't even area manager. What we did talk about was district manager. And that's where I needed to get and stay in order to really be consistent. And this is before we had the preferred client program. So in order to be consistent in making that money, district manager was where I needed to be. And I sat down because back then we had this a bunch of the different documents that we get, and it asks what your goal was for district, area, region, and nation. I mean, I honestly didn't know what all those different things were. I'll never forget my second month. I qualified for area, got into qualification for area manager because we did over 10,000 in sales. And Martha McIntyre, who was my national vice president at that time, today, or Carlita was, for you guys know Carlita, Martha is her sponsor. Carlita was my regional vice president at the time. And Martha called me. We're eating pizza on close day because we closed back then at 6 p.m., not midnight. And she's congratulating me for hitting area manager. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. I mean, I was like clueless. But what that did was shifted a little bit of what I wanted to work towards, because what I started to see was I started to see that I was helping people. I had a few people who joined the business. I started to see that they were being helped by bringing in some extra money. I also started to see how the product was making a difference for folks. And this is before we had the 30-day program. So this was really, truly in skincare. I'll never forget a customer I had who started wearing our makeup because she could not use any makeup on her eyes because they all made her break out. And she had her like 30-year reunion coming up, and she's like, I just want to go with makeup. And she called me after that event in tears, just sharing with me like how amazing it was that she got to go to this event with makeup on. She's like, you just don't understand. Like, I've not been able to wear makeup. So I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like, I boosted that lady's confidence. Well, I didn't, but the Arbonne products did, but that introduction to them. So that was when my vision started to really grow into what this could be and how it could be bigger. And so that was really my first get-go of setting goals, was in 2004. You guys have heard me share this before, but my kids are all very goal-oriented. All of them already have their word. Well, I just talked to Caleb. I don't think he's got his nailed down yet, but they all have their word for the year. And they usually have it before I got mine. And so they're very goal-oriented. And somebody asked my daughter one time, how, because she's around all of the kids, all four of them, and she says, what in the heck, how are you guys also goal oriented? Like, how do you know and sit down and create this plan of what you want? Like, I recently sat with my son Nathan for like 3 hours, And what this guy's mind does with his finances, he's like a wizard. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like everything we're learning in our book club, but more. And I'm like, gosh, Nathan, you really need to like workshop this because this is incredible information. But you know where he got it from? Books, podcasts, and lots of books. He's a reader. I don't know that he was much of a reader when he was young, but he's definitely a reader as an adult, building that. And so, but this person asked, and my daughter said, honestly, it's going to have to go back to 2004 when my mom joined Arbonne. And obviously, when we started and planted a church in 1993, we had some stuff laid out. But wow, I look back and think, man, if we'd had this information, how much more would we have been equipped back then to have a vision for the year and to plan that out? And that's what I love about all the church planting programs that are out there today, because that's what they do. They equip that. And Vince and I have always said, like, if people, if churches just take what we know in our industry, it can help so much more. That's a whole nother topic. So I'm not going to really talk about goal setting, like I said. But guys, I do want to encourage you all to spend some time today. Vince and I do this every year. We talk we in our journals, we separately write down things that we want to accomplish in the year, things that we know are going to challenge us. And then we come together and we talk about those things. But then we go over what we wrote down last year. Like, what did we write down that we wanted to accomplish and what did we not do? And it sometimes takes us a couple days into the year to do this, but our goal is always today. And so, what I want to encourage you to do, if you haven't done this already, is to sit down and write out a vision over your business. Like, what does that look like? What would you like to accomplish? What are your passions? What are things that you enjoy, but what are the things that really fuel your heart? And what Arbonne helps us do is Arbonne, we can combine a lot of those things, and Arbonne is the vehicle that helps us achieve those. Like, Vince and I used to joke around about, gosh, years ago, we used to sit around the kitchen table when our kids were little, and we would talk about, what it would look like if, as a pastor, he made $5,000 a month. Yeah, guys, that was the extent of our dreaming, was $5,000 a month. Just mind you, our first house that we bought was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. I was pregnant with Samantha just 31 years ago. It was $28,000. That's all we could afford on my husband's pastor. Well, actually, wasn't even making money as a pastor at that time. So it was like he was full-time pastor, full-time working. So that was the extent of our dream. But we used to talk about, is there something we can do that we used to talk about this all the time? Is there an outside resource where ministry doesn't have to be relied on from the people? That ministry can be done, like we have a source of income coming in. So we talked about stuff like that. Had no clue years later that Arbonne was going to be kind of open, like an opportunity given to me. And you guys know my story. I didn't want that opportunity. I said no to that opportunity. I said no several times to that opportunity because I didn't like the package it came in. Did I want what it could bring for me? Absolutely. And I think sometimes as consultants, we struggle with that package ourselves because all of us want what's on the other side of that hard work and what could happen. And ultimately, like Vince and I, we love helping people. Like, I love helping somebody grow and believe in themselves more. I love helping people open up the opportunity for health, but also for someone to bring in some extra money, which I think is so, so needed. So when you have that vision, if you don't, just write something down, guys. Get that going. Maybe create a page in your journal where you write my vision for what Arbonne could be in my life. And things will pop into your head every once in a while. And we should definitely have a plan that goes into place like that. But I saw these questions. Mel Robbins, if you follow her, she has a new book out. And I have not purchased it yet. I will, but I saw some like questions that she posted, and I'm like, this is perfect, because I think sometimes we spend a lot of time diving into the new year, what's possible, what am I going to shoot for, what I'm going to do, but we never address maybe some things that we didn't take care of in 2024. And so I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you guys. Let me see if I can get it to work. Okay, great. It's working. Okay, so it's my notes section on my phone. These 7 questions. So take a screenshot, guys. Screenshot this. whatever you need to do to get these 7 questions. If you follow her, it's one of her most recent posts, and you just go through the slides and you'll see these questions. But she said on there, before you plan for 2025, let's address these things. So the first question we can ask ourselves and spend some time reflecting on this are, what are the people, experiences, and commitments that created positive feelings, energy, and memories for you this year? And I think sometimes we look at a year, and if we don't see major milestones hit, we get down on ourselves. And maybe you feel that way about your Arbonne business, and maybe you feel that way about your relationships. I think that happens a lot, where we like think we're like no good, because just like the book, The Gap and the Gain, he talks about when people stay in the gap, they're constantly tearing themselves down because of this goal they have way up here that they haven't achieved yet. And so instead of looking at it backwards and going, wow, look at how much I've grown this year. Look at how much I've changed. Instead of looking at it like that, they're always disappointed in themselves because they haven't reached an ultimate goal. And I saw this one gal post the other day. She said, the goal, it's not about the end result. It's about who we become along the way. That's what we celebrate, and that's what we shoot for. So spend some time writing down that. Number 2 is, what are the people, experiences, and commitments that triggered negative feelings, energy, and emotions for you this year? This is important too, guys, because we are in control of who we give our power to. And as women, I think we're all women on this call right now, we will, and I guess this is just us, we're doers, we say yes to a lot. And one of the things that will be the best thing you can do for yourself is just learning how to set healthy boundaries. And when is the time to say no? When is the time to allow something to happen? And one thing that I grew a lot in this year, and this is at the beginning of the year, was not worrying about what's going on in other people's lives. This has been something I've struggled with, whether it's my nieces and nephews or my siblings. Sometimes I take on some of that stuff, and I didn't need to. And I have learned to say, it's none of my business. And if I see someone else's kids struggling or something, I have learned to say, God did not give me those kids to raise. It is none of my business. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't care and I don't pray for those folks, but this has been a big source of stress in my life that I've learned over the last decade, and probably wish I had learned this in my 20s. I'm learning it in my 50s. But guys, what are those things that you can look back on, and then look back and reflect, is that something that I should have been more guarded on? It could be a particular person in your life. It could be someone that you have a relationship with, and need to work on managing some boundaries with that relationship. Whatever it looks like, this is a super important question to ask, and it's a super important question to address, because I do believe the world that we are living in today, my husband and I were talking about this today, we're in an all-time high of stress levels, like never before. And it's because we have the information highway at our fingers. And this is a gift. It's a good thing, but it has its struggles too. So we have to learn how to have boundaries with that as well. But we have the information highway, so we have so much information coming in at one time. And so learning how to set that. And if you really want to dig deeper, this book is amazing at helping with this. Trent Shelton, he's from Fort Worth, but it's called Protect Your Peace, and he addresses this. If you just look up Trent Shelton, like listen to his podcast, he talks a lot about this. You don't have to read the book, but the book is amazing. But that addresses that as well. And so you'll learn, like he literally has learned that. And here's the thing, when we set boundaries, people get mad, but not the right people. Not the right people, guys. I will tell you, the people who respect and love you and care about you are going to understand. And there's going to be people who love you who will be mad because they're losing some of you. And guys, we this is who we take care of first. It's like on the airplane, when you put the mask on your face first. If I am not filling me up, I don't have anything to give to anyone else. And I don't remember who I was talking to about this, but we were talking about, out of our abundance of love for others, out of my abundance of love for God, is what I want to overflow from my life. But if I am running on empty, if I am running burnt out, if I am running weak and spreading myself thin in all these areas, I'm not able to. So what people get is not a healthy, vibrant Beth. They get like a leftover version of me instead of what can abundantly come out of it. So I know it's a lot to say about that one, but it's a good one to address. Number 3, what did you learn about yourself this year? As I was reflecting on this morning, I'm like, gosh, There were certain milestones that I didn't hit this year that I was like, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, but Beth, you had an incredible year of learning new things about yourself. And so I was like excited to celebrate that because guys, I don't know if you knew this or not, but in order for us to grow, in order for our borders to expand, there's a prayer in the Bible. It's called the Prayer of Jabez. It was written into a book years ago. And Bruce Wilkinson, who wrote the book, in his next book, The Dream Giver, which is one of my favorites, he said, people misinterpreted my prayer. They automatically thought that they were asking for just abundance to come to them. He said, you're actually asking for pain when you ask God to expand your borders. And it doesn't necessarily mean physical pain, but we're asking for us to be stretched. So if you have like had this vision of growing into an executive national vice president or whatever that looks like, where you have a large platform of helping and reaching a lot of people, there's going to be some stretching that has to happen. And that stretching, sometimes we don't recognize it right away. And we don't see, hey, if this is going to happen, I need to become a better version of me. And every stage of leadership growth requires a better version of us. It's not that we turn into somebody different. It's just that the layers peel away and that fresh fruit comes out. So what did you learn about yourself this year? Number 4, what are you going to stop doing in 2025? So if you learned some things about yourself, some habits that you don't want to take into 2025, now is the time. List that out. I was talking to my daughter today about making little things on little sticky notes and burning them like in a fire pit or ripping them up and throwing them in the trash. So what do you want to stop doing in 2025? Number 5 is what are you going to start doing in 2025? So when you have your goals listed out of what you want to accomplish this year, and then we work backwards from that, like what does that look like? Like if you have a really busy schedule and your day job, but you're working too, you want to have more time freedom, you want to be very strategic with your time. And that's what I love about this book, because this guy is like crazy busy, but he is strategic with his time. We can learn. Being good with our time and time management is a skill set that we can all learn and develop. So that's the good news about that. So what do you want to start doing in 2025 that's going to help you achieve your goal, guys? We all know what those things are. And if you're not quite sure, call your upline and ask these questions of them. Do you see things in me that I need to improve? And guys, it's going to come from folks who see you more often than folks that you might see once a year. So that's always good to ask too. And then on number 6, it's what are you going to continue doing? Oh, continue doing. So what has been something in 2024 that you got right, that you're like a habit that you developed? Maybe it was reading 10 minutes a day. Maybe it was listening to a podcast. Maybe it was doing that one scary thing every day, whatever that looks like. What are you going to continue doing that you finally figured it out in 2024? And then number 7, what can you do today to take the first step in the direction toward making 2025 your best year yet? So I've already talked a little bit about, creating that vision and what that looks like. And I want you guys to, I want to kind of give you a hard truth right now, is as you do create a vision over your business, just know that just because it's written down doesn't mean something's going to automatically happen. I think about my step of faith into Arbonne in 2004. I feel like every bad thing that could have happened in my business happened in the first 6 months. From nobody in my warm market helping. My father-in-law sat me down and told me I would fail. My best friend growing up told me I just wanted to rip people off, and that was coming from her husband, who was sitting in federal prison because of a white collar crime. I had so many things like that, and I know I'm just listing off a few. I moved to somewhere new where I knew nobody and started over. That was really hard for me. You guys know the story of me crying like a baby, and my husband's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, God made a mistake. I can't do this. And that was in Fresno. And it's crazy for me to think about, what if I had given in to my fears? What if I had a husband who said, fine, then quit? Thank the good Lord. God knew what he was doing when he gave me Vince. And we even went through some hard things the next 2 years. But God knew what he was doing, because he knew I needed somebody that was going to believe in me when I didn't believe in myself. And that's what we are for you. If you feel like you don't have that, then call us, call your upline, because that's what we believe in you and we know what's possible. But you guys, I mean, that 1 month, had I given up, I mean, that the 20 years that came after that, I mean, it's just been incredible watching and getting to meet all of you in all the different places and the legs that go out in my business all over. Like it's crazy. And it started in January, but it truly started in July 2004 as I wiped my tears and my husband helped wipe my tears. And I said, okay, I'm going to keep on keeping on. And 1 year later, we were in qualification for national vice president. Just insane. But it took me bearing past. And that's what I want to encourage everybody for 2025 as we start a new year, be excited and invigorated about the possibilities of something new, but also know too that it starts when we take a leap of faith. And I don't know if you guys have ever done your one word. I actually this morning was journaling about all the different things I want to grow in 2025. So I'm like, okay, that's a lot of words. So I was praying, but I'm like, that's still a lot of words. So Chat GPT has become my best friend lately. So if you guys aren't doing Chat GPT, I just do the free app. I haven't invested. All my kids, like Caleb was telling me all the different things he uses, and Samantha uses it like crazy for things. I'm like, wow, it's insane. I mean, if you watched my stories, we were in Virginia and we did so many fun sightseeing things. But you know who guided me was Chat GPT. I said where we're going to be, what are the best things to do, what are the best hole-in-wall restaurants, and that's how I found everything. So it's really cool. But what I did today is I entered every word that I'd written down, all the different areas that I want to grow in as a wife, as a mom, as a sister, as a friend, as a leader, as a consultant. And I wrote down what would be the one word that would reflect all of these different things. And the first word they gave me, I then wrote, please go deeper. And then the next thing was beautiful. And the paragraph that it wrote, or whoever AI wrote, just talking about what each thing means to build up towards that was beautiful. And it ended up being fearless. And I'm like, yeah, fearless. This makes sense. So if you haven't done that yet, I want to encourage you to do that. You can go to johngordon.com and you can print out. He has a one word worksheet. Years ago, I don't even think any of you who were on the call were in my business at the time, but I gifted the one word book to everybody, all the district managers and above at Christmas. And that was a long time ago, but he does have a book. It's a quick read. I highly suggest, I read it every year, and I encourage other people to do that as well. But it's a great way to take all the different things you want to do and put it in one word. And then my one word, I post it in different spots and it's all over my journal. So if you haven't done that yet, it's a great activity, but I hope this has helped you guys. And I'm really taking and do one thing today, something that's going to put you in the right direction. And then guys, then we want to take a leap of faith towards what those things look like, because we have so many great things coming up. I'm heading to Maui on Tuesday, and we have our one-day event that's on the Saturday after Maui. So it was planned on that day for a purpose and a reason, because we can't share everything that we learn in Maui, but there will be lots of things we can, and we're so excited. And I've seen the lineup of